Hello, students. So, today we are going to discuss Allen Curnow's poem, House and Land. It is a poem that is going to explore themes of alienation, displacement, and colonial legacy. Right. And it is also going to uh, indulge you into a discussion on the lingering effects of colonization. Okay. Now, Curnow, being a New Zealand poet, he often reflected on the identity and history of his homeland, that is New Zealand, right? So, even in this poem, he is going to examine the emotional and cultural disconnect settlers, that is, the people who have colonized New Zealand. People from Europe who have come to New Zealand to colonize it, the settlers, and now they have settled over there. So, he is going to examine their sense of displacement toward the land they have inhabited, that is New Zealand. Okay. And it is also going to capture the tension between past and present. Okay. So initially they were people from Europe, right? And now they have settled in New Zealand, a land very, very far away from their native place, right? So you're going to see the theme of belonging and estrangement. Okay, so now the poem reflects the colonial history of New Zealand. Okay, where European settlers, that is, European colonizers, they have taken the land from the indigenous people, and now they have tried to impose their way of life. So this has already been done. ये लोग यूरोप से न्यूजीलैंड में आए, न्यूजीलैंड को कॉलोनाइज किए, और जो वहाँ के जो नेटिव लोग थे, इंडिजिनस पीपल, उनको उठा के हटा दिया और उनके ऊपर अपने लाइफस्टाइल को इम्पोज करने की कोशिश किया. एंड in this particular poem we are going to see how even after claiming uh, the land, they are unable to feel any sort of connection with this new land. They are unable to call it their home. They still believe that it is Europe where their home is. Okay, so despite claiming ownership of the land, many settlers, I would say, many settlers and their descendants, they felt a deep sense of disconnection. They are unable to truly call it home. And you are going to find how this poem is going to explore this alienation and how it has become intergenerational, which means that it has passed down a sense of loss and exile. ओके, इंटरजेनरेशनल का क्या मतलब है? जिस जनरेशन ने कॉलोनाइज किया उसका नेक्स्ट जनरेशन. Okay, that means generation to generation they have passed down this sense of loss, this sense of exile. Okay, and this is what this poem explores. This is what this poem is going to examine. Okay, सो न्यूजीलैंड को यूरोपियन कॉलोनाइजर्स ने कॉलोनाइज कर दिया, बट स्टिल दे आर अनेबल टू फाइंड होम इन दैट पर्टिकुलर प्लेस. देयर सोल इज स्टिल इन यूरोप. ओके, उनको फीलिंग नहीं आती कि ये उन्हीं का घर है. उनको ऐसा लगता है कि ये एक दूर देश में आकर के बस गए हैं. बट देन वन डे दिस वुड हैपन कि मैं अपने वापस घर जाऊंगा. एंड ऐसा नहीं है कि इनको आए हुए कुछ ही समय हुआ है. दे हैव बीन रिसाइडिंग इन दिस प्लेस एंड लाइक आई हैव टोल्ड यू, इट इज़ इंटरजेनरेशनल ट्रॉमा. यानी कि जनरेशन बाय जनरेशन आगे बढ़ते चले जा रहे, बट स्टिल दे आर अनेबल टू कॉल इट होम. दे डू नॉट फील न्यूजीलैंड एज देयर होम. Their body is in New Zealand, but then their soul is in Europe. Okay, now coming to the poem. So we are going to do stanza wise. Wasn't this the site, asked the historian, of the original homestead? Couldn't tell you, said the cowman. I just live here, he said, working for old Miss Wilson since the old man has been dead. Okay, so now in the very first stanza, the poem introduces us to the historian and a cowman who are in a sort of conversation. Okay, काउमैन कौन होता है? जो गाय की देखभाल करता है, जो गाय की देख रेख करता है. ओके, someone who tend to cows. uh, right. So the historian here asks about the original homestead. Homestead मतलब homestead is your जो नहीं, कुछ लोग पुराने टाइम में जब लोगों के पास ज़मीन बहुत ज़्यादा हुआ करती तो वो लोग घर भी अपना उसी में बना लेते थे एंड सामने थोड़ा सा बहुत बड़ा सा, थोड़ा सा नहीं बहुत बड़ा सा लैंड स्पेस खोल छोड़े रहते थे, वो बस ऐसे ही पड़े रहता था. सो होम स्टेड दैट इज दैट ओनली. ओके, सो द हिस्टोरियन हेयर आस्क्स अबाउट द homestead and he is showing his curiosity about the past and the history of this land. Okay, however, our cowman, ही his response is completely indifferent. उसको ऐसे दिखाता है कि मुझे इसमें कोई इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है and he says that he doesn't know a thing about it and it is just that he only works there for Miss Wilson since her father has died. Now why I'm saying father, because it's Miss Wilson and not Mrs. Wilson, right? तो इनके फादर पहले कभी इस घर को पूरा उनके अंडर में था बट आफ्टर हिज डेथ दैट particular homestead was inherited by Miss Wilson, that is his daughter. Okay, now this exchange, the exchange between the historian and the cowman, this sets the tone for the poem. It highlights a key theme, and what is that key theme? The disconnect between people and the land they live on. So, while the historian is very much interested in preserving history, the cowman here treats the land as a mere place of work. He has no emotional or historical attachment to this particular place. राइट, वो बस यहाँ पे काम करने के लिए आता है, इसी के लिए वो यहाँ पे है. उसको ऐसा कोई इमोशनल कनेक्शन नहीं है इस पीस ऑफ लैंड से. उसको कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता कि यहाँ की हिस्ट्री क्या थी, क्या है, क्या रहेगी. उसको कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. ही इज़ जस्ट अ पर्सन हु इज़ वर्किंग देयर, दैट्स इट. ही हैज़ नो sentiments attached to that piece of land, right? So this lack of connection, it foreshadows the alienation explored which has been explored throughout the poem. Okay, now moping under the blue gums, the dog trailed his chain from the privy as far as the fowl house and back to the privy again, feeling the stagnant afternoon quicken with the smell of rain. Now, before understanding this stanza, let's first of all understand certain words. Blue gums is a sort of टिम्बर ट्री. बहुत ऊंचे ऊंचे पेड़ होते हैं, उसी में डॉग को चेन से बांधा गया, उसी में चेन को बांध दिया और दूसरे एंड पे डॉग बंधा हुआ. देन प्रिवी इज योर टॉयलेट. ओके, सो इन दिस स्टैंजा, so the first stanza was all about the conversation that was going on between historian and the cowman. Now in this stanza the focus shifts to a dog who has been tied to a chain and uh, he is aimlessly moving between the privy and the fowl house. Privy is your toilet and fowl house जहाँ पे chickens रहती हैं. जो रूरल एरियाज होते हैं वो लोग इंग्लिश पीपल जनरली दे व्हाट यूज्ड टू डू इज़ कि वो अपने घर के बगल में ही चिकन हाउस रखा करते थे जिसमें हेंस वगैरह रहती थी. उसमें दे ले देयर एग्स एंड एवरीथिंग. और जब उनको चिकन खाना होता था देन दे यूज्ड टू टेक चिकन फ्रॉम देयर, राइट, hens from there. So they had a fowl house as well. So the dog was moving between the toilet and the fowl house. Now this now this description of the dog who is moping under the blue gums, this is reflecting something. And what is that? दिस इज़ रिफ्लेक्टिंग अ सेंस ऑफ एंट्रैपमेंट. ऐसा लग रहा है कि उसको कैदी बना के रखा है, वो कहीं इधर उधर मूव नहीं कर सकता है. ही हैज़ टू लिव बिटवीन द प्रिवी एंड द फाउल हाउस, उसके अलावा कहीं नहीं जा सकता है. सो हिज लाइफ इज़ वेरी मोनोटोनस. ही कांट डू एनीथिंग डिफरेंट राइट, एक ही वे में उसको चलते चलना है, चलते चलना है. सो his condition is very stagnant, रुकी हुई सी life है, right? And in the very next stanza, sorry, in the very next line, right after 1 2 3 4 5, fifth line, you're going to see stagnant afternoon. So again the same idea has been reinforced. See, feeling the stagnant afternoon. Now, the stagnant afternoon and the dog's limited movement, both these things symbolize the lifeless and repetitive existence of the settlers, of those European colonizers who have come to settle this land. Sorry, who have settled in this particular land, right? They feel confined, just like the dog had been confined between this privy and the fowl house. So they are sort of confined and they are disconnected from the land as well, right? They have no connection to the land. They do not feel any sentiments towards the land that they have settled into. So, and last line, quicken with the smell of rain. Now, the smell of rain does offer a momentary sense of hope or change, you can say. So this again, this is hinting at some sort of relief from this oppressive atmosphere. But still, the emotional state of the settlers has been correctly described as the stagnant afternoon. Why? Because it is emphasizing their lack of purpose. It is emphasizing their alienation from this particular piece of land that they have settled into. Right? So from time to time, they do get some momentary relief. Oh, yes, I have been able to acquire this much of land, but still, they do not feel any sentiments towards the land. Right. Now, coming to the third stanza. There sat, is it recording? Yes. There sat old Miss Wilson with her pictures on the wall, the baronet uncle, mother's side, and one she called the hall, taking tea from a silver pot for fear the house might fall. Now, what is going on? We get an introduction to old Miss Wilson, right, who is sitting in her house and she is surrounded by pictures of her aristocratic British relatives, right? Baronet is a title in aristocracy. Okay, जैसे लॉर्ड होता है, सर होता है, वैसे ही बैरनेट या फिर नाइट होता है, वैसे ही बैरनेट भी एक टाइटल होता है. ओके, it's a sort of post, you can say. Okay, in aristocracy. So she has surrounded herself with pictures of her past, you can say, right? And these include a baronet uncle and a picture she refers to as the hall. Now, what is being symbolized over here? Her deep connection to her colonial British heritage has been symbolized by usage of these two elements, the baronet uncle's picture and the hall. Okay, and Miss Wilson here is seen clinging to these symbols of the past while she is sipping tea from a silver pot. Now, this again reflects a fear of losing her sense of identity and status. Why? Because in aristocracy, you must have seen they have very like the utensils that they use, the cutlery that they use, they are of some standard, right? They are made of silver teaspoons and everything. So because she has a fear that she is going to miss, or you can say that she is going to forget her past, that is why she is still clinging on to those little things in her life. Okay, so the line for fear the house might fall, it is actually suggesting her fragile state, both emotionally and physically. And it is also suggesting the precarious nature of her colonial legacy. So this stanza highlights the disconnection that Miss Wilson has from the land she is living on, and a refusal to adapt to the current reality. She is unable to accept her reality, that now she is someone who is residing in New Zealand and she had to reside here all her life. Right? So she is not accepting this fact. And this again emphasizes the theme of alienation and a sense of nostalgia as well for some idealized past. So the past that she had is being idealized here. That is the ideal condition, but she's unable to get it, and that is why she has surrounded herself with all these things. She's still clinging to the mannerisms of her old life. Okay, now next stanza. People in the colonies, she said, can't quite understand why from Vayu to the mountains it was all father's land. So now in this particular stanza, she is reflecting on her family's former glory. Now her father has already died, so she is lamenting the fact how people in the colonies are unable to understand what a big piece of land she owns. They are unable to understand the vastness of her father's land, which is stretched from Vayu to the mountains. Right. So her words reveal a sense of entitlement, and it also reveal a sense of nostalgia for the colonial past, where her family had immense power and ownership. पहले जब initially when they got settled in this particular area, they must have had immense power, right? Why? Because they owned such a vast piece of land. But now in the colonies, they are unable to understand the significance of this family. And that is why she is clinging on to her family's lost glory, former glory. Okay, that is sort of lost, you can say. Okay, so this exaggerated claim of land symbolizes the colonial people people's attitude of dominance and disconnection from the indigenous understanding of land. Okay, Miss Wilson's longing for the past here again emphasizes her inability to connect with the present reality, her inability to accept her diminished position, her degraded position. So it again underscores the themes of alienation and loss. Okay, now, oh, sorry. Next stanza. She's all of 80, said the cowman. Down at the milking shed, I am leaving here next winter, too bloody quiet, he said. Now, in this stanza, the cowman is reflecting on Miss Wilson and he is mentioning that she is all of 80. So, he is highlighting her age, right, her advanced age, and possibly her declining vitality, right? So, this description contrasts with his own restlessness as he is planning to leave the farm next winter. He's complaining that the place is too bloody quiet. So his word is conveying his dissatisfaction, his impatience with the monotonous, uneventful life on the land. He does not like to stay here. So the cowman's perspective emphasizes the theme of alienation once again. Now, while Miss Wilson is clinging to her past, the cowman is rejecting his present. He longs for some sort of escape, right? Where Miss Wilson is unable to accept the reality, the cowman is rejecting the reality altogether. So, and yes, one more thing. The colloquial tone of the cowman's speech also reinforces the poem's focus on ordinary, the disenchanted lives where neither the past nor the present is providing any sense of fulfillment or belonging, right? ना past में शांति है ना present में कोई बिलोंगिंग वाली फीलिंग आ रही है. ओके. Now, the spirit of exile, wrote the historian, is strong in the people still. He reminds me rather, said Miss Wilson, of Harriet's youngest Will. Now, in this particular stanza, the historian is reflecting on the enduring sense of exile among these settlers, and he's noting this down, that the spirit of exile is strong in the people still. Now, this is suggesting that even generations after settlement, the settlers still feel out of place. They still feel disconnected from the land that they have inhabited. And uh, if we talk about Miss Wilson, which is happening in right next line, now Miss Wilson's trivial remark highlights her inability to grasp the emotional and cultural disconnection that defines her existence. There is a juxtaposition between the historian's insight and Miss Wilson's shallow comment. जहाँ historian एक बहुत ही important चीज़ बता रहा है, वहीं पे Miss Wilson is just making a comment, a very trivial comment, I would say. She is trying to find the face which resembles her people's face, you can say. यूरोप में जैसे लोग हुआ करते थे अपने वो पास्ट लाइफ में उनके, वैसे फेस को आज भी वो तलाश रही, एंड शी इज़ डूइंग दैट इन द फेस ऑफ हिस्टोरियन. She is doing this to the historian, that she's unable to, because she's unable to accept the present moment, right? She's unable to adapt, and that is why she is doing that. कह रहे देखो ये बिल्कुल हैरियट के यंगेस्ट बेटा विल की तरह नहीं दिखता है. So this is what she is doing. So this again emphasizes her denial of her alienation, and it is reinforcing the theme of displacement, right? She's not able to understand that she is being alienated here, right? Now coming to the next stanza. The cowman home from the shed when drinking, with the rabbiter home from the hill. The sensitive northwest afternoon collapsed and the rain came. Norwest. No, the line was only four lines. Yes, the cowman home from the shed when drinking, with the rabbiter home from the hill. So now in this particular stanza, we again shifts to cowman, and this time we have the rabbiter as well, who are finding some sort of solace in drinking together after a long day's work. Rabbiter is a person जो पहाड़ों में जब क्या कहते हैं रैबिट्स रहते हैं, जंगली रैबिट्स. सो व्हाट दीज पीपल, द पीपल हुम वी कॉल रैबिटर, व्हाट दे यूज्ड टू डू इज़ कि ये पहाड़ में जा करके ढूंढते थे रैबिट को, एंड दे यूज्ड टू मेक देम द प्रे, शिकार करते थे उसका, एंड देन उसको रैबिट का मीट दे यूज्ड टू कंज्यूम. ओके, so these people who catch rabbits are known as rabbiters. So the cowman and the rabbiter, they both belong to the same class, right? So after a long day's work, they are having a drink together. They are finding some sort of peace in having a drink together. So the cowman who is coming from the milk shed and the rabbiter who is returning from the hills, they both represent the working class who are living a life of routine and hard labor. And they So the drinking is highlighting their shared dissatisfaction with life and their need to escape the monotony of their existence. So this scene reflects a lack of purpose, a deeper connection to the land, or you can say it reflects a lack of the deeper connection that on the land that they're working on. It reinforces the theme of alienation, and the simplicity in their action, it contrasts with the historian's intellectual curiosity and Miss Wilson's nostalgic reflections. Right. Okay. Now, in the last stanza, I think this is the last one. One, two, three, four. Yeah. The sensitive Norwest afternoon collapsed and the rain came. The dog crept into his barrel, looking lost and lame. Is that the last stanza? Hmm. Yes. So, in this stanza, the oppressive atmosphere of the day is giving way as the sensitive northwest afternoon has collapsed and the rain came. So, the rain brings some sort of relief from that stagnant heat. Yet, it is unable to change that underlying sense of gloom. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. So, the dog, which had earlier been wandering aimlessly, now he has gone to into its barrel, appearing completely lost and lame. And the dog's actions mirror the settler's emotional state, that of resignation, that of helplessness, that of being confined to a life of monotony. So, the imagery of the collapsing afternoon and the dog's retreat emphasizes the recurring theme of stagnation, of alienation, showing that even moments of relief like that of rain cannot dispel the deeper sense of disconnection from the land. Okay. Now, in the last lines, but you can't attribute to either awareness of what great gloom stands in the land of settlers with never a soul at home. Okay, so in this last stanza, the final stanza, the poem is delivering its central reflection that neither the settlers nor their animals seem fully aware of the great gloom that is pervading their existence. The land of settlers is portrayed as a place which is filled with people, but never a soul at home. So, this powerful conclusion captures the core theme of alienation that despite living on the land, the settlers remain spiritually and emotionally detached from it. They can't feel any sense of attachment to the land they are living on, they have inhabited. Right. And the great gloom symbolizes the emptiness and disconnection caused by colonial displacement and the loss of true belonging. So, this stanza is critiquing the settlers' inability to create a meaningful relationship with the land they occupy, leaving them as outsiders in a place they claim as their own. Okay, so that's all in this poem. Thank you.